So much for joining us today on Connect and Collaborate, where we come together each day to introduce you to our network of business and community leaders and to discuss important issues that impact business in Colorado and the region. I'm Tammy Schaefer, your on-air producer, and today we are connecting with Vital for Colorado once again with Peter Moore, the chairman and CEO of Vital for Colorado. Peter, again, great to have you here.
Well, thank you very much. We're very happy to be in the mid part of our third season with the Colorado Business Roundtable. Right. It's been very, very good and real benefits me because I get to meet interesting people twice a month.
Yeah, give us the opportunity to meet them too.
We have as our guest today the very easy to pronounce Susan Fakharzadeh, who is the Senior Manager of Community Relations for PDC Energy. And Susan, you may not know this, we've actually never had somebody from a major E&P producer on the show.
Well, I'm excited to be the first one. I hope I represent well.
So we've been kind of circling around the issue, but we have never had anybody directly from the industry, and there's really a lot to talk about because the scene in Colorado, Vital for Colorado started in fall of 13 and with vigor in 14, so it's now been four and a half years or so. But during the time period that I've been chairman of Vital for Colorado, things have changed so much, and I want to say a seismic shift because that's a bad
no
humor,
pun intended, right?
But things have changed so much, and I'd be very interested in your thoughts on that. But before that, why don't you tell us a little about your background and how did you become interested in the oil and gas business?
Sure. Thanks for the opportunity to be here today. I'm a girl from Idaho Falls, Idaho. I was born and raised there, and it's a beautiful place to grow up, and moved to Colorado, went to the University of Colorado at Boulder, and I actually studied English and philosophy, so not exactly your typical path into the oil and gas industry. I explored my way professionally for a couple of years. I worked in high tech. I wandered around trying to find my heart and soul, and worked for a major electronics distributor for a lot of years. Got a ton of business experience, but realized that just wasn't what was driving me and what I really wanted to be doing. So I started trying to explore my next career move, and I thought I wanted to go into the nonprofit sector. So I started researching jobs in the nonprofit sector and found this place called Western Energy Alliance. At the time they were known as IPAMS, which is the Independent Petroleum Association of Mountain States. And they were looking for a director of business development, and I thought that was really appealing and interesting. And so I started peeling back the onion on the oil and gas industry. And I was shocked myself at what I learned and how exciting and vibrant and how much opportunity this industry had. So I jumped into it, and they brought me on board. And I like to tell people this story that within 30 days I came home and I told my husband, I'm home. This is my industry. This is my place. And I found the place where my heart and my mind and where I want to spend my professional days working for and delivering for on behalf of this great industry.
Well, in Colorado, you know, as our name suggests, the oil and gas industry is not the only industry in Colorado, but it's certainly vital for Colorado in terms of its impact. And our effort, one of the reasons that we're sponsoring the show and we exist, is really to talk about the oil and gas industry, how important it is, and the economics of it, and some of the political issues for that, but we're the voice of business. We don't have any oil and gas companies members of our board. We predominantly have, I'm a business lawyer, and if you want to take a look at my primary client is Major League Rugby. So I'm a sports lawyer, I suppose, to that extent. But we have members of chambers of commerce and members of industry, and so it's very nice to talk to somebody that is working for industry and somebody that is knowledgeable about it. There's a lot to talk about. In addition to your work with PDC, you also are members. You're a member of various boards, and you're very involved in the community. And I guess what I'm circling back is that how that becomes important to the corporate mission for PDC. But why don't you tell me about your personal experience?
Sure. Yeah, I'll start with my board positions, and they're obviously a learning experience for me. There's always something that I come away with when I take a leadership position in a nonprofit. I am a big supporter of the Boys and Girls Club of Weld County, also of the Boys and Girls Club Colorado Alliance, which is sort of the state advocacy umbrella over all of the clubs here in the state of Colorado. I'm most active in Boys and Girls Clubs of Weld County, and it takes one visit to one club to become humbled and really appreciate how important this organization is to our communities and the need that there is up in Weld County, and how vital, no pun intended, that is to, that service is to the communities of Weld County. So in my role there, what I do is I honestly try and bring my peers along and drive support for this really, really important resource. Obviously, so much of our oil and gas production today is occurring up in northern Colorado that I really want to get my peers involved and connected to that. Other organizations that I sit on, I'm lucky enough to have been an employee of Western Energy Alliance and now sit on their board. And that's really important to me because it's a great group of industry peers. And I like to look at ourselves as having the opportunity to be an example to our peer companies. Yeah. And then I also sit on the board of Kirkpatrick Bank, which is a new one for me. It is a Oklahoma-based bank, and they've got a branch here in Denver and one down in Colorado Springs, and that's more of a learning business opportunity. So to me, being on boards and being a leader in the community is a great way to learn and be out there and be active and talk about industry. It's really all about conversations and face-to-face and getting to know people and exploring where we all have shared connections, because I think we're really brought together more by what's common than what's different.
Yeah, starting about 10 years ago, I was kind of a nose-to-the-grindstone lawyer and a corporate lawyer, and I'm sure I focus on my family, but I sure as heck focus a lot on the practice law. And somewhere around 2007, 2008, I decided I wanted to try to help the community. So I went to my partners and asked them, I guess, what I should do, and they directed me. And since then, it really has changed my life, because I've been now on many, many boards. I'm a chairman of the board of a nonprofit, Fought for Colorado, but I've also been on boards or board of governors for many things. It's very enriching.
It is very enriching. Yeah, that's a great word for it.
And it's and you learn so much, and you meet new people, and it sort of builds a bigger life for you, I think.
It does. You remind me of an anecdote. Last year at the Boys and Girls Clubs of Weld County at their annual gala in April, I had the opportunity to be the MC, and I told this story when I got up there, and I said, we always talk about what we're doing for these kids, but what we forget is what those kids are doing for us. And I shared a story that we frequently will have our board meetings in one of the clubs to give our board members an opportunity to interact with the kids and just see how the operations are going. And there's never been a single time when I've walked into one of those clubs where I ever had to open the door for myself, because those kids are opening the door for me.
Right.
And that's really touching and eye-opening, that these young kids that maybe don't have any place else to go and maybe come to the Boys and Girls Clubs because they get a meal or somebody to help them with their homework, they're there opening the door for me when I walk in, and it was very humbling.
Yeah.
Well, just plug for nonprofit work in general. People always speak of it in terms of, I want to help the community, but I would imagine on a deeper level that the community is helping these people, and human nature being what it is, I'm a cynic, I suppose. People are really doing all this great work because they realize it benefits them in a very subliminal level.
No, I totally agree. Peter. And we'll get to this a little bit later, but at PDC, we have an annual day of volunteering called Energizing Our Community, where we encourage all of our employees to put together a team and go out and spend one day of their work out in the community working at a nonprofit. And my team runs that, sort of coordinates it, gets it going. All of our offices across the country do it on the same day. And what really is cool to me is, and I tell people this all the time, trust me, you're going to get more than you give today. Right. And our people give a lot. We typically, log 2,000 hours in that single day of volunteering at organizations in 3 different states. And, there's a lot of giving and getting that day.
It's certainly true. My old law firm, which is a large international law firm, actually was into teaching in schools and teaching kids how to read and write. And it's the same idea, but I suppose we're really talking about the whole idea of social responsibility and for small private businesses, it's really become a personal choice, but for a large public company such as yours, it's probably an imperative.
It is an imperative.
Like it really becomes part of the culture and part of the business plan, and I just want you to comment on that a little bit and try to explain your viewpoint of where does social responsibility for a public company, or where does that lie?
Sure, and I think there's a spectrum. I think it lies all over the place. We're not a Starbucks. We're not even an international company. We're not talking about fair trade policies or
Right.
things like that. But what we are talking about is being responsible members of the community, and whether that's through charitable giving or volunteer hours or environmental stewardship or education. Collaboration. I think those all fall under that umbrella. And really, you could call what I do there corporate social responsibility, stakeholder relations. They're all words for the same thing, which is going out and being involved and engaged in an industry like ours where we interface, work with, and collaborate so much with the public. It's not just an option. It is a responsibility, and it's one that I'm really proud that our company put such a high value on and such a high priority on. And whether that's, like I said, whether that's volunteering or charitable giving, for us it's very, very strategic. And it's, how can we educate? How can we really listen to the community and find out where the greatest good is? And most importantly, it's not about writing a check and throwing our name out there. Nobody's going to go out and buy PDC Energy's product, right? We're not selling a commodity. But for us, we want people to know who we are because we are a member of the community. And we do that in all different ways. We can talk about it now. We can talk about it later. But, some companies look at Wall Street metrics and the global reporting initiative around all these different types of standards and what do you do? And we look at that. We look at it from a compliance standpoint with regards to state regulations and requirements, environmental standards. It really runs the gamut from all of those things. And my good fortune is to be responsible for the piece that really is interfacing with people and making investments and doing what I like to call personally giving forward. I like to say, we're not going out and making change in the community. We're not giving back. What we're doing is giving forward and truly making investments for the future of that community, whether it's in education or financial contributions or infrastructure.
I notice your company refers to what I refer to social responsibility. That might be an old phrase, but you're calling it social investment.
Yeah, I think I think you could call it both things because it is both. I think investments are a part of it. I think it is our responsibility. So what I like is it's not. I like to say social investment over charitable giving because charitable giving sounds like it's just something that you wrap a bow on and leave on the table. It's not just this one-time thing. It really is.
You show up and give a check, and you may not have any involvement.
Yeah,
in
you're still not
what
invested.
you gave money for.
Right,
Yeah.
right. And for me, it's making those investments and developing this web, this network in our community that connects all of those pieces and parts. There's nothing more inspiring than when I can go out in the community and create an opportunity where we connect these partners. And we did a great event December 19th of last year for the World Food Bank, where we brought out a team of volunteers to staff the warehouse at the food bank.
So that's Weld County, Colorado?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep, thank you. Weld County, Colorado. It's called the World Food Bank. And we brought out a staff of people to work in the warehouse and volunteer. The same day, we had a local radio station, KFKA, come out and broadcasts remotely, and we did a telethon. We typically will do a $5,000 contribution to them at the end of the year, just as tradition, holiday giving, make sure people, get that turkey on their table. But this year we said, how can we make this a little bit more? And so what we did was we did a match. And we matched dollar for dollar what was given by the community that day. And we turned our traditional $5,000 gift into a $12,000 campaign that was raised by the community and had people out there collecting donations, and that's where it gets inspiring. That's where you're moving mountains, right? Whether they're large or small, but it's bringing those forces together.
And I see I'm also delivering the turkeys sometime before December 25 of last year.
Exactly. Time to let them thaw out.
Well, one of the principles, and the reason I'm sort of getting into this, and I really appreciate your comments, Vada for Colorado is based on 7 basic principles, and some of them are very simple things, such as we believe in science, not hyperbole. But another one of the principles is that we want to avoid the we versus they dichotomy in terms of debate about really anything. And we now have, I think, somewhat close to 83,000 Colorado citizens that have actually signed that pledge, either online or actually physical signature, and over 1,000 businesses. And so it's become a fairly large grassroots organization. I think it's hit a responsive chord. As it relates to the oil and gas business, people were trying to pillory or cast a negative light on the oil and gas business, and they won't really talk about any of this. Or I don't know if they won't talk about it, but to my knowledge, I don't see very many stories celebrating the social investment or social responsibility. And as things change, I think that every public business, even a mid-sized law firm such as I am a partner of, needs to be more and more aware how important it is to try to help the community as part of your DNA.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more.
So anyway, I just wanted to, I guess, applaud that, but also note that I don't think it's, talked about at all, and therefore not talked about enough.
It's talked about a little bit, but good news isn't sexy.
Good news isn't that sexy.
And I find that really unfortunate. And we're trying always to tell our story. We're also trying always to find other people to help tell our story for us and help people understand. We're not out there doing good because we want to get a great media headline. We're really out there doing good because it's the right thing to do. But you bring to mind, Peter, we've become so polarized in the debate, and it has become an us versus them. And what I love and what I strive to always achieve is developing that conversation. And when I got into the oil and gas business years ago, I was at a private social event with a group of friends, and somebody I didn't know very well said, "So you're in the oil and gas business?" And I said, "Yeah, I just joined about a year ago. I really love it." And she said, "So do you support this fracking thing?" And I said, I do support fracking." And she says, "Well, I find that really surprising." And I said, "Why?" And she said, "Well, you seem like such a nice person."
Wow.
Right? And I said, I like to think I am a nice person. And I said, "What are your questions? What are your fears?" And I think trying to bridge that gap and trying to pull together, reduce that polarization is all about asking questions. What are your fears? What are the unknowns? How can I answer them? Because we are science-based. And I tell people all the time, I'm like, I'm not a mean person. I would never put my family or my friends or any of my employees or the community in any sort of danger. We're out here trying to do the best job we can for the greater good. We all use this resource. We now have this opportunity to be not only energy independent, but a global player in the export market. There are countries out there that use natural gas as a weapon. There are countries out there producing oil and gas that maybe we rely on that resource today that don't treat women the way we're treated in the United States, where women don't get an opportunity to get an education, have a career like I have, don't get to choose who they marry. Why should we support those types of economies when we can develop that resource here? So to me, it's a discussion on every level, whether it's global human rights, global politics, or whether it's farm to table. We can produce this stuff in Weld County. We have, arguably 25% lower, energy prices here in Colorado than we did in the rest of the country.
Well, you've managed actually to check the box. A few of our other principles is that we're trying to educate people in terms of issues of national security.
Yes.
We're trying to point out the value of independence. And in terms of oil exports, I think it's been as long ago as 2012.
It's hard to believe. Time flies.
In terms of oil, and then,
Right.
and then also it's flipped in terms of natural gas, which
Right.
is, but people don't know that, and people don't really realize that. But, probably really just bring it to close, but just step aside from oil and gas, one of the major problems, and I don't know if I'm getting old, I suppose I am getting old, but the public discourse about any issue, about anything, it just seems to be talking points coming from news media that are paid to create conflict. And,
Right.
And to me, they're just selling soap.
Right.
And they're not really serious people. So that's my personal complaint. And I think our cultures needs to have a little bit more honest discussion and more education and more knowledge. And then to turn the conversation back to you, the people that want to put oil and gas into a box and to put it in a little box and then attack it, they're doing so in a very static way. And they're not really understanding the dynamic nature of life or science or especially industry. And the science as it relates to fracking oil and gas development has changed dramatically. And the political discussion has changed dramatically. And I don't know if the phrase would be, this isn't your father's Oldsmobile, but we're not talking about oil and gas companies as in the 40s or 50s or 60s.
Right.
We're talking about the oil and gas companies in first quarter of 2018. They're
I couldn't agree with you more. Yeah.
So that's my statement.
Right.
But I think that's the truth.
Well, it's a rapidly growing and innovating industry. I mean, I tell people all the time, this isn't the Beverly Hillbillies where, Jud Clampett shoots a hole in the ground and oil comes out, right? It is very, very high tech, and it is outrageously scientific, but I'm so impressed by the innovation that we do because, any business wants to be efficient. And our goal is to be in and out as quickly as possible with as little footprint as possible, just like anybody else, to produce as much resource as possible. I mean, that's all efficient, responsible business practices. But the way we do that and the innovation that happens, that's one of the things that really makes me proud of this industry and really proud of the domestic oil and gas industry is I'm sure people have heard this term wildcatter, but it is a very entrepreneurial spirit. And it's the spirit of let's go get them and let's improve and let's do it better than we ever have before. And that's how fracking came about 70 years ago, I mean, it's this constantly evolving thing. To your point real quick about it's not your grandpa's oil and gas business, I tell people that all the time. People are always shocked to see somebody like me in working in oil and gas. And I remind people in our corporate headquarters in downtown Denver, where half of our Colorado employees work, 50% of our employees are female. I mean, this is a young, diverse, really cool population. And we've got people from all backgrounds. Again, I got a degree in English and philosophy from the University of Colorado. If I can get a job in the oil and gas business, anybody can, right? And I would challenge people to set aside their perceptions and challenge their own perceptions and ask more questions.
Or just try to be a little bit intelligent, and if you don't know, ask somebody who does.
Right. Well, you said something earlier, and people are out there debating on the headlines. They're not debating on the content.
1 minute.
Yeah.
Well, we have about 40 seconds left. We talked about we talked about PDC, but what is PDC?
We are a Colorado company with Colorado values. I know that sounds very tagliney, but I think it's really important for people to know that we're your friends and neighbors. We are people who are outdoorsmen. We're fishermen. We're hunters. We're bikers. We're hikers, and we're real people. And I think that's the story that we're trying to tell every single day.
And you have mineral interests in 90,000 acres or something like that?
Yep, we're active in northern Colorado and in West Texas, so a lot of acreage out there.
So we'll pick it up next segment. Thank you.
Thank you.
Great. Yes, we'll be back with more with Peter Moore, Chairman and CEO of Vital for Colorado, and his guest, Susan Fakharzadeh, Community Relations for PDC Energy. Stick with us. We have more coming up after this break. Thanks so much for staying with us today here on Connect and Collaborate as we connect with Vital for Colorado with Peter Moore, Chairman and CEO. And Peter, you brought a great guest with you today.
Well, thanks a lot. We're very fortunate to have Susan Fakharzadeh, who's the Community Relations Manager for PDC Energy, which is a public company, a NASDAQ-listed company, I believe. And in more than 3 years, it's our first guest of somebody directly from the oil and gas industry. And we'll talk a little bit about her company. We'll talk about community employee engagement. And I guess I'll start with looking at the annual report for your company and the website. Your tagline is that you stand behind your word and reputation, not your permits. What does that mean?
You know, that's kind of a phrase that we've tossed out there, and I think it's really a good summary of our culture. I talk to people a lot that I think there's this impression that it's the big bad oil and gas industry, and we're big bad oil, and we really aren't. One of the things I like about PDC, and I tell people a lot, is we've got a great combination of a small company culture paired with the financial conservatism of a publicly traded organization. So it's this really, really cool place to be. We've grown a lot over the last couple of years, but we're still just over 500 employees in 3 different states. We're still pretty manageable size. I know most of the names of our folks when I go out to our offices, which is really important and meaningful to me. And when I throw that phrase out about standing behind our word and our reputation, not our permits, what I mean is we really approach the business collaboratively. And, you know, we follow, obviously, all of the guidelines and regulations and compliance standards. We work very, very hard to ensure that our permits and applications are complete and provide all the information we need in order to build a case for why we want to drill someplace and why that place is the best place for us to drill, whether it's with regards to preferences from the landowner or access to the resource. All of those things come into play, and it's about collaborating. It's not saying, hey, we're going to come do this here because we've got the right or the permit, but we're going to come do this here because we've worked with all of the stakeholders and the parties involved, and we've come to this juncture where this is the place that we want to be. We all want to be.
So you say your word and reputation, your permits are issued by the state, but your word and reputation are really expressed to the local communities and the counties in which you operate and the cities in which you operate, school districts, and on it goes. So Weld County has been in the news a little bit last couple of years with regard to oil and gas as oil and gas development gets a little bit closer and closer to development of homes. And in a certain sense, you can sort of simplify that the fight is that many, many years ago, oil and gas development was out in the country, and the people you were dealing with were the agricultural owners. But now you're dealing with homeowners. Now you're dealing with city councils and county commissioners.
Well, and I think,
so how's that going?
Yeah, I think it depends on where you're at, right? And it's funny because a lot of people say, oh, the oil field's encroaching on my neighborhood. And some people might say, you know, the oil field's been here for 70 years. The neighborhoods are encroaching on the oil field. Right. And I don't think that's the right tack to take. I really don't. It's not about who is here first. It's about how do we all work together. Right. You know, we've got this great kind of triangle of agriculture and communities and oil and gas development, and we have to all work together. So it's about that collaboration, and you hit the nail on the head. We're working with the landowners, we're working with the county commissioners, we work personally with the town planners, the town managers, the school districts. It's all about communication and helping people understand what we're doing, how long we're going to be there, what the process looks like. What amazes me is even sometimes in our attempt to be the safest and the least intrusive, we're still causing confusion. And I was actually at an event in northern Colorado, and I had a teacher come up to me and said, you know, if what you're doing is so safe, why are you building these big walls around your rigs so we can't see in? And I said, well, those walls are actually there to keep the noise down. They're there they're there for your comfort. You know, this is a 24/7 business while our rig is there for, you know, the weeks or couple months that it might be standing. And I said, we build that wall to keep the sound in and to keep the light out of, you know, whatever might be nearby, whether it's a road or a neighborhood a couple thousand feet away. So, you know, even in our best attempts to be good neighbors, sometimes we're really misunderstood.
Well, you know, that teacher, I don't want to use the word paranoia because that's a perfectly natural human reaction. And I suppose the human natural reaction is suspicion.
Right.
And so, Shakespeare said that no good deed goes unpunished. But that's really kind of interesting in the sense that a sound wall would be perceived as something sneaky.
Right. And I think we've
Like that is difficult to deal with.
It is. It's challenging, but I think that the challenge for somebody like me or any company or anybody in this industry is to approach every day with an open mind and understand that people have questions, and we have to always be out there thinking about what are their concerns, what's their fear, uncertainty, and doubt about us being there, and let's allay those. Who do you need to meet? Who do you need to talk to? What information can I share with you to help you understand what we're doing and that we're people too? It's kind of like what I said in the last segment, Peters. We're your friends and neighbors. We're not these strangers coming in. We really have a vested interest in protecting this environment and protecting these communities. And to me, it's about that transparency and collaboration and communication.
I've been practicing law, trying to do deals for, I think now for 38 years. So still a youngster, but one of the observations I have had is that you're usually trying to create a synergy between somebody, a group of people, and it's important to get them on the phone. It's important to have them meet, and it's not about just the written word or the contract. It's about the human relations, and I think that we're not comfortable with other people unless we met them.
I agree. And I was thinking of this earlier in the last segment when we were talking about discourse and how polarized everything's become. And I was thinking about social media, and it's kind of like social media is to public discourse, kind of like what the highway is to human interaction. When you're on the highway and somebody cuts you off, you're screaming and yelling and honking your horn. But if you're walking down the sidewalk and somebody cuts you off, you're not going to react that way because the person's right there, right? But social media allows us all to hide behind our little car and our highway, and it doesn't, it takes away that human element. And I think we have to challenge ourselves to remind ourselves that we're all human beings. We're all out here trying to do the best we can, and let's come to the table and talk and have this discourse.
I don't pick on Facebook and Twitter, but it occurs to me that it's the inaptly named social media.
It's the anti-social media.
The anti-social media, because it actually causes people to be more isolated. And
it feels like that, right?
And for many things, we need to become more integrated. But we can't solve that problem.
Right.
But your job is to solve the problem in terms of being transparent and available to the community. And what are a few things? I guess we talked about the food bank issue in Weld County, but I'm sure there are others you can mention.
Oh, there's so much. I mean, again, I'm blessed with a really, really fantastic role in the organization where I get to be out there and working with every walk of life when it comes to what we do as a company. And whether that's sitting down with the county commissioners as we do at the start of every year and going through our plan and saying, this is where we're going to be. These are the communities that we're going to be working with. These are our contacts. These are the questions we have about you or about the communities. This is where we're making investments. This is, the size and scale and geographies of where our plans take us. It's about being transparent and communicating, and I think asking the right questions. I would never go into a community in northern Colorado and presume that I know what their need is. But sitting down and talking to the people and talking to our folks that live there and listening is where we find out how we can make the most positive and meaningful impact.
Are the assets that PDC owns mostly in Weld County, or also, I guess, other counties? Larimer County, and I don't know where your assets are. The Wantenberg is actually a geological formation, and doesn't really pay attention too much to county lines.
I think pretty much exclusively Weld County is where our plans are.
Nothing in Adams County.
Correct. Yeah, we have done work in Adams County in the past, and I may be speaking out of turn. We may have some. I don't think we still have any producing facilities, but all of our future drilling activity and plans are in Weld County.
So you talked about your team. Let's talk about employee engagement. What is PDC doing as far as employee engagement?
Employee engagement is one of my favorite topics. We do all sorts of things. We work really, really hard to train our employees on everything that's happening, whether it's technological innovation, how we do what we do, regardless of your role in the company. We want to make sure that all of our folks are encouraged to talk about oil and gas. We understand it can be very polarizing, and we want people to be comfortable sharing what they do and who PDC is with their friends and neighbors when they're asked, and feel comfortable having that conversation. We do a lot of employee engagement through volunteerism. Last year, we had a lot of different volunteer groups go out on projects. We had a team of our employees climb Mount Bierstadt in a fundraiser for Colorado I Have a Dream Foundation. And even in these really isolated, remote environments where we've got a team of people climbing a 14er, one of our employees found herself having a conversation about the oil and gas industry with a fellow hiker that she just happened to be pacing. And it's like, so what do you do? And who do you work for? And why are you here? And so we really encourage our employees to get out and get involved and be a part of that giving forward, sort of, as I like to say, out into the community. We also do a lot of fairs and festivals, and for us it's really important that if we have a booth at Kersey Days, or if we have a booth at Eaton Days, that it's our folks that work in that community. And what's great is...
So you must have run across Bottle of Colorado, because I think...
always.
We have a team out there that probably does more than 100 events. And,
yes. They're always there, and I've signed the pledge.
Said, that'd be a good job to have.
You get a lot of fun in the sun, yeah.
We have been talking about polarization, but there are many, many people that depend upon the oil and gas industry. And let's just talk about one community in terms of agriculture. We have a representative of the Colorado Farm Bureau on our board, and has been a founding member of our board going back to 2014. And so I have received a lot of information about the agricultural industry, and the way that I perceive it is that the folks are mineral rights owners, and they depend upon the money in order to get the farms to occur. They work under various agreements and cooperatively to try to minimize the impact of oil and gas development on their land, and there's a lot of local rights agreements with regard to the location of the roads. And then over the years, the roads have become reduced because central processing facilities and other efficiencies have come on. But my impression is, and I don't know if it's your impression, but my impression is that agriculture in general is very, very supportive of the oil and gas industry. So it's not a matter of conflict; it's a matter of common interest.
I would completely agree. You know, it's common interest in land use, and let's ensure that if we're going to go in there, we're not going to disrupt your crop, or we're going to disrupt as little as possible. Let's ensure that we're providing the best use of water in Will County, and ensuring that we work very, very collaboratively with these folks. You mentioned a lot of our farmers are mineral owners, and what I find really I'm searching for the word. What I really find fulfilling about some of these agreements and some of these projects we work with these folks is it's in some manner lifestyle preservation, because there's farmers up there that have had a dairy farmer since their great grandfather homesteaded, and the original barn is still out there that was built by hand in late 1890s, early 1900s, and they're still raising these cows and running this farm in their family because they have the financial support from the mineral rights. And we're big supporters of FFA. We're big supporters of 4-H. Love seeing those kids out there.
I apologize. I know what 4-H is, but what's FFA? Future Farmers of
America? Yes, Future Farmers of America. Thank you. Yeah.
Know that. Okay.
We get caught in our own alphabet soup, but, we're very big supporters of that. Yeah. Well, a girl from Idaho, But it,
I'm a big city guy.
Yeah.
I used to know all 4-H's and 4-H, but
oh, yeah, that would be good, right?
We'll talk about that at the end.
We'll circle back with you on that one.
Let's see what I can do.
But, it's very, very collaborative. And I really, those are my most meaningful and most fulfilling days, is when I'm out in the field working with our landowners, working with our folks out there. And I've taken people out on a lot of training visits and worked with them. And when I take a group of people from Denver up to Weld County, I always start with the same thing. I always say, we're an hour north of Denver, but we're 1,000,000 miles away. And I like that about Weld County.
Well, and just in terms of Synergies, on our board, we have representatives of the Colorado Farm Bureau, and they're really kind of founding members. We also have a representative of the mineral rights owners, which again are predominantly agriculture or agricultural folks, but the number of mineral owners, and I know that many of these owners own multiple minerals, so those numbers can't be taken that there are 600,000 people in Colorado, but there are 600,000 mineral rights owners in Colorado, and that's a lot.
It's a lot of people.
So it's more than 10%, more than 11, 12%.
I mean, that's 6 to 1 of the number of people arguably in the oil and gas industry in Colorado. So, I mean, that's a lot of people who are impacted by this industry very, very directly in a very real, meaningful way.
So I've been positive, I think, throughout the positive. Here's some of the threats that just jump out at me. What was fought in 2016 and defeated in 2016 is, as best I know, gotten on or may get on the ballot again. And this is a 2,500-foot setback, and 2,500 feet are that's a radius, and it's a circle. And then if you add up all of the 2,500-foot radiuses, the governor actually said back in 2016, and it's true then, it's true now, that would foreclose the ability of E&P exploration and production companies such as yours to produce their inventory, which would be the leases and minerals not yet drilled and not yet exploited, not yet drawn. It would foreclose the opportunity of over 90%. I'm not aware of any company, including yours or any other company, saying if that passes, we will leave. But having been an economics major in college, I know that if any business, you take away 90% of the inventory, they can't continue.
Right. I mean, that's
so,
the basic facts right
so
there.
Part of our mission is to try to defeat that very not well thought through threat. But that's a major threat in Colorado for 2018.
And I'm a glass half full kind of girl, so I'm really just focused on what can we do to help people make the most responsible choice and make the most informed choice, really most importantly. And I think that the challenge becomes, it goes back to what I said earlier about when you're in Weld County, you're an hour north of Denver, you're 1,000,000 miles away. Things look different up there. Your perspective changes.
Sure.
And I think as an urban dweller, I live in downtown Denver. What does 2,500 feet mean to me? I know what that means in yards on a golf course, but what does 2,500 feet mean when you're standing in the middle of a farmer's crop? And
There's
he has
a philosophical debate, by the way, that humans are unable to understand any number larger than 10, let alone
Just me.
Does that go back to like the primates even can figure out a 9-digit number or something like that?
I think there's a biological reason for that conclusion, let alone pi r squared with r being 2,500.
Right. But so for me, it's really all about an illustration and understanding the impact and scale. So what does 2,500 feet mean to a home in downtown Denver versus a farmer who has a significant amount of his crop? 2,500 feet puts that well in a place where he doesn't want it. He or she doesn't want it. And we want them to be able to exercise their personal property rights and say, no, this is my property. That doesn't work for me. So I think for us, it's informing people about the impact. It's helping people understand what it means and ensuring that everybody makes the most informed decision.
Well, it's probably more the purview of Vital for Colorado because we're directly involved in that fight,
Right.
and that's not your role.
Right.
And I do understand that, but
It's an important issue, though.
for PDC, it'd be over 500 people in Denver, And then to switch over to the agricultural interests throughout the state, I'm not aware of anybody who's actually calculated properly the economic impact. I believe that the economic impact of that proposed 2,500-foot setback from fields, streams, and rocks, and dry rivers, and anything that could be defined very, very vaguely, is probably over $300 billion. And it's probably, and who's to pay that? I mean, who could possibly pay that?
Right.
Those kind of economic losses.
Yeah, I mean, economically, the bill could be staggering, and I think for us, it's thinking about, obviously, safety is number one. Safety is paramount, and we're always going to operate with safety first and foremost in mind. So that's our number one priority. When you look at economic impact, I think there's a couple of different angles. It's the value of the resource produced, whether it's in mineral rights or whether it's in millions of barrels of oil equivalent. There's that value. You're looking at the severance taxes that go out to the communities.
Absolutely.
You're looking at the charitable dollars and the giving and all of that impact. I mean, you're looking at the salaries and the families that are supported. And these are really incredible. It's a very diverse workplace. So at PDC,
two shows ago, we actually had General Irv Halter on from the department from DOLA, and he talked about the impact of the severance taxes, and every single school district in Colorado received a check from those taxes.
Sure.
And then it goes on and on beyond that. It's much more than just the severance taxes.
Yeah.
But
and I think the challenge is,
I just
Peter,
want to put some numbers to something that I learned just a few weeks ago.
Yeah, I think the challenge is these are big conversations. These aren't messages you can put out on a bumper sticker. These aren't things that are easy to explain. And so I think it takes a lot of commitment and responsibility on behalf of the members of our communities and of our society to make sure they're making the most well-informed choice they can. I think none of this is easy, but I guess that's why they get people like you and me sitting in a room trying to solve the problems of the world in a 24-minute segment.
Well, my goal is just to get the information out, and I'm hopeful that if the information does get out, that people will make rational choices at the ballot box. And I can't believe that will not happen. That people were very rational in 2016, and I think it actually didn't even get on the ballot.
Yeah, I think we're all about just informing people and giving them the most information we can.
Well, away from politics, one of the reasons I've been nice to you today is that I've learned that you're one of the most 25 most powerful women in Colorado, and I figured it'd not be wise for me to mess with you.
I wish that meant in biceps, right? But we're on the radio, so I can say what that means.
I just figured that it sounds like you have some mojo going on there.
Well, a huge shout out to the Colorado Women's Chamber. That was quite the honor to be recognized on the stage with so many other talented and accomplished women, and it was a very humbling experience, and something that my guys in the field will not let me live down, by the way.
That's a great honor, and I think the commitment of PDC in terms of, I think you said that the local workforce is over 50% female.
Yes.
So it's an honor for you personally, and I think it's an honor for your company.
Thank you, Peter.
I think that's all we have. So
I guess so.
Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you.
Thanks so much to Vital for Colorado and Peter Moore for hosting this show. And thanks very much to Susan Fakharzadeh with PDC Energy for having this great conversation with us today. Have a great Friday as you wrap it up.